Okay, greetings everyone. I hope everybody can hear me. I hope my microphone is working. We are in week 6. So you should be working on project 2 now, which is the colorization project, sorry, the comic book design project. And there are a couple things I want to go over tonight that should help you. At this point, you should be beyond the outlining of your comic and into the painting part of the project. So tonight what we're going to talk about are a couple things that might help you with the painting, patterns, brushes, and swatches. And I'm going to show you how we can use some of these in this project. So let me see if I can go ahead and share my screen here. Okay, so I should be seeing my screen here. All right, so yes, patterns, brushes, and swatches. So this is my image here for project 2, or just a quick thing I put together just for demonstration purposes. So I've gone ahead and started to add some color. I have an outline. This is a scene from, if you haven't recognized this, it's from Kill Bill. And so I went in and started outlining everything. And then I started adding in some color and a lot of layers. So this is a good starting point when you have added all your color in, your sort of base layer that you're going to build upon. That's a good place to start. That should be the foundation of all of your painting. Should be sort of this like initial base layer paint. So what I want to do is show you guys a couple things here. And you should, there is a video out this week that I just did about swatches and about using painting with color in Photoshop, and it goes into a little bit more detail. But I did want to show you a couple things that I did not mention in the video. This is your swatches panel right here. And out of the gate, you have several presets. And sometimes, you can, if you are painting with any paint tool, so I'm going to use the paintbrush here, for example. I need to be on a layer that I can paint on that's exposed. I'll just create a fresh new layer here. And if I have my paintbrush selected, I'm going to go ahead and increase the brush size. So I'm going to hold down Control Option, very handy keystroke, and I'm going to also make it a hard brush here. So when I have any paint tool selected, if I hold down Option, it gives me the eyedropper, and from here I can sample different colors. Now, if I bring up my swatches here, you'll notice that every time I sample a new color, it's loaded into this area of the swatches. Okay, so these are sort of a history of the colors that I've selected. It's very handy, especially if I'm painting and I'm kind of going back and forth between several colors. I can use that. Something else that I use quite a bit. If I have, let's say, 2 colors that I'm using a lot of. So let's say I'm painting an area and the whole area is orange and blue. I can go ahead and load those colors into my foreground and background color area. And as I paint in with them, I can toggle back and forth between the two using X. Okay, so I can do that and then switch to blue and then switch back to orange, blue, orange. So it's pretty quick and efficient. So X, handy keystroke. Now, if I want to go back to default colors, the default colors for this area here are black and white. And I would just click I just hold down D, and that turns it back to black and white. So another way of switching between the foreground background is this right here, but the keystroke is much more efficient. So, so the swatches area, it does come with several default swatches built in. There's RGB, there's CMYK. These are just different color palettes. And, you know, sometimes, you know, rather than sort of building your own color palette, it might be handy to just come in here and look and see what's available and just pull from this. To create your own group, that's just as simple as coming down here and clicking on this little icon here to create a new group. And you can call this whatever you want. Oh, it's Meguiar's Colors. And then from here, if I have Meguiar's Colors open, I can select these colors and I can add to the swatch. I can add a swatch of that color, and I can use that. Sorry, I can do that with this icon right here. I can name the colors whatever I want. We'll call this one Jacket Color. Click OK, and it's added it to my my group here. Okay. So something else I can do is, and this is something I do show in the video, I can import swatch groups and export swatch groups. So let me try exporting a swatch group and you can see what that looks like. So I just select the group and then I come over here to export, export selected swatches, and we'll name this jacket, and it's going to be a .aco file. Click save. And if I am, let's say, on somebody else's computer, and these colors don't exist, I can import them via this same menu here. So import swatches, I'll import the jacket, and it should be here on the bottom. Okay. Meguiar's Colors, and there's the color. Okay. So we know how to import, export swatches. It's also handy to change these. I think sometimes it's a little hard to see the color of the swatch, so I'll often change this to use larger thumbnails. And so that's basically it. That's swatches. Now, so with this image, what I wanted to do was add a pattern, and I wanted to add a pattern to the knife here, or to the sword. I want to make the sword, I want to add sort of like a serrated edge, and I want to do that with a pattern. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to import a pattern. And I can do that. There's a number of different websites where you can pick up different textures and patterns. If you just Google subtle patterns, this will come up. And so what I'm looking for here is something that could possibly work as sort of like a serrated knife edge. I'm looking for something just with straight lines, so maybe something like that will work, but I want them to be a little bit closer together. So maybe something like that's getting closer. So maybe something like maybe something like this will work. It is kind of going in the wrong direction, but we can fix that. So simple horizontal light. If I click on that and click download, and we'll create a new folder here. This will be a texture. And we'll title this knife texture. Okay, so it's a PNG file. What you'll notice about these textures, they are very, very, very tiny. And they're designed to, let's come back here to look at some of these. They're designed specifically to repeat. So something like this, if we were to load this in, this would be one continuous texture. You wouldn't see the individual tiles, and that is by design. They're designed to be seamless and repetitive. So I have my pattern here. Let's go ahead and load this pattern into Photoshop. So to load a pattern, we first want to open it up in Photoshop. So we'll navigate to our file here. You can see, again, super, super tiny file. So what I'll do is I'll come up here to Image, Define Pattern, and then we'll just give it a name. We'll call it Knife Blade. Click OK. So once you do that, if I come back in here, if I create a selection, I'll come back here and create a selection here. If I create a selection and I go to Fill, I'm right-clicking on Fill. I can fill it with the foreground color or the background color, or you see here, I can fill it with a pattern. And if I open this up, I've got several patterns that come with Photoshop. There's a lot of stuff here. And these sometimes are useful, especially if you're looking for a particular texture. Maybe you're trying to fill, you're retouching the exterior of a house and the landscape doesn't look that great. You can use some of these textures here to fill in. But we're going to fill in with the texture that I just imported. So I'll click OK. And there we go. That's exactly what I'm looking for. So I'm going to erase this and I'm going to deselect. And we haven't gone over the pen tool yet, but I think that this is a really good candidate for the pen tool. The pen tool is one of the best selection tools that you can use in Photoshop, hands down. If you're good with the pen tool, then you really can do a lot of different things. The pen tool is your friend. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a few different points. And what I'm trying to do is, I'll create one more. I'm trying to create a, oh, let's start this one again. I'm going to move this over here. I'm trying to create an arch, and I want it to kind of follow the shape of the blade. And now what I can do is move this down a little bit. Whoops. To maybe somewhere about there. And then I'll just come back to the pen tool again. So something like that. Okay, so I've created with the pen tool, you can create a path, and the beauty of the paths is that you can save a path and you can bring it back up. You can manipulate the path. This is a vector shape here. So I have the option to do whatever I want with it. I can create additional anchor points. But for this particular purpose, what I want it for is to create a selection. So if I come over here to paths and I right click, I'll select make a selection. And it's going to ask me if I want to feather it. I don't want to feather it. I do want it to be anti-aliased, but before I do that, I want it to be on the right layer here. Okay. This will be the blade layer. And I'm going to come back here again. I'll right click to make it a selection. And I'll click OK to make it a selection. Something else you can do, a handy keystroke, if you hold down the command key and just click, it will turn it into a selection. Okay, so that's what I want. So let's go ahead and fill this in with, now before we do that, we'll create a mask, a layer mask. Yep. And then I'll go ahead and fill this in with the pattern. And I have that layer selected, and I'll come back up here into fill, and I want to fill the whole layer. I'm going to fill the whole layer with this pattern. So I click OK, and you can see it does just that. But I don't like the way that they're going in the wrong direction. A serrated blade, it should be perpendicular it should be perpendicular to the blade itself. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to rotate this, and in order for me to do that, I need to detach it from the layer mask. If I do this now, if I click free transform and I try to rotate it, you'll notice that it's rotating the mask also. And it's doing that because these are linked together. So I need to unlink them. So I'm going to come over here into my layers panel, and I'm going to unlink the layer and come back to my layer, and then I'll just rotate it. And you notice that it keeps that layer mask in the same place. And I'm just going to rotate it until it looks about right. Maybe something like that. I'm going to have to increase the size just a little bit. Okay, I'm liking that. So I'll go ahead and double click on it. And you can see that it's rotated that pattern. Now I can just come back in here. I'm going to lower the opacity down a little bit so I can see where exactly this is at. And with my paintbrush tool, I'll paint with black and just paint that area out. Okay, go ahead and zoom in, and you can see this is, you can see the pattern that I've added here. Okay. So that is importing patterns in Photoshop. So the last thing I want to go over is, we're in module 6 here. The last thing we talked about patterns. Let's talk about brushes here real quick. Now, if I open up the brush panel, I have a variety of brushes here. Brushes are something that they're a dime a dozen. There seems to be a lot of them available. If we go back here to the module, I've included, this is one of many sites that has free brushes that you can download. So What I'm looking for this particular demonstration, I'm looking for, because I'm doing Kill Bill, I want to try to find a brush that has like blood stains. So blood splatter, that'll work. Let's search for that. Yeah, something like this is great. So I can go ahead and download this, any one of these. I've already downloaded it, but maybe let's just try this one. Let me see if it'll just let me do it. Yeah, without creating an account. All right, so blood splatter ABR, that's the texture there. So let's we'll put it in the texture folder here, click save. Okay. All right, so there's that ABR file. It's a you can see it's a Photoshop brushes format or file type. And so if I come back in here into brushes, I can import brushes from here. I can also, if I bring this up, import brushes through this panel. We'll do it through here. So import brushes, and then I'll just navigate. Okay, 20 blood splatter Photoshop brushes ABR. I'll click open, and it loads that in. And you can see that's right here. All right, so let's see how this is going to work. So I want to add some blood splatter to her jacket before I do anything. I, of course, want to work non-destructively, so I'm going to create a new layer just for the blood. And then I'm going to go ahead and select one of the brushes. Now it says 2500. That's a very large brush, so I'm going to go ahead and shrink that down quite a bit. Maybe something like that. So if I use the brush now, you'll notice that it's yellow because it's pulling from my foreground color, which I don't want to do. I want to find a blood color, so maybe we'll do something like that. Maybe something like that. Now I like the way this looks, but you can see that it's easy to tell that there's a pattern here. That's another reason why they've included extra brushes here. There's just different varieties of blood splatter patterns. So maybe that'll work better. Now, if you do have a brush that you like and it doesn't have different versions, so let's say, for example, let me see if I can find it. I have this Napoleon Dynamite brush that I created, and it's a pretty silly brush, but let me show you how this is going to work here. I'm going to create a new layer. I'm just going to fill this with white. So you can see this is a pretty useless brush, but if I want to randomize this, I can come over here into my brush settings, and in here, these are some very advanced brush features. These are real game changers. They add a lot of variety to these brushes. So let's say that I want to change the size of the brush as I paint. So if I do that, you can see it's randomizing the sizes there. maybe I want to change the diameter. It's randomizing that. I'm going to turn pen pressure off. How about the spacing? If I come over here to scatter, we'll do something like that. If I want to add some color, I can do that. Of course, this is a black and white brush, so let me see if I can. Now again, it's using your foreground and background colors, so that's why it's monochrome right now. So I'll change these, and you can see as I click, it's continuing to randomize in different areas. So it's randomizing on the scatter, the shape dynamics of the brush, and now it's also randomizing on the color. And saturation. Okay, so one more thing I want to show you. So we'll go back to the blood splatter brushes here. So if I only have one version of this, and I'm trying to create a background, let's say, of just different blood splatters, I can come back in here into my brush settings and change these. So, and what I like about this is it gives you a preview also of what it's going to look like. So I'm really going to kind of change the settings here for this brush so that it doesn't look the same. There we go, something like that. Okay, so now every time I use the brush, you see it's doing something different to it. So it's either flipping it or spacing it out differently. I can also, if I come back in here, I can also change the opacity a little bit. So it's not just 100% filled in every time. Okay, so you get the point. Very robust tool. The brush tool is very robust, and especially with these settings. So as you're working on your comic book covers, consider using some of these. I think that they will be quite helpful. Okay. All right. So that's all I got for you guys tonight. If you have any questions at all about Project 2, or any questions about things that are coming up in the class, deliverables, please let me know. The peer evaluations were last week, and they didn't go as smoothly as I would have liked, at least on my end. There are some things with Canvas that I'm still trying to figure out that were not working as they should be. So you all should have gotten a notification that a peer review was due. It should have been in your to-do list. And you should have also, if you had completed Project 1, you should have also been assigned people to peer review. Now, if you didn't turn anything in for Project 1, then it worked as it should. It should not have assigned you peer reviews. But if you did turn it in and you didn't get any peer reviews, please let me know. I think everybody did, and it worked, but I'm still trying to work out some of the kinks on my side with it. And so I'm hoping that Project 2 will not have as many problems in terms of the peer review part of it. All right, so I guess that's all I got for you guys tonight. And like I said, if you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I will see you next week. And take care.